So welcome to the Conundrum with Dre. This week I get to have a conversation with Matt Bowie from arguably the best band in the province, Kill Chicago. 2020 Song of the Year for Two Drinks Behind, 2016 Album of the Year for The Grey. In the conversation, Matt and we talk about his musical beginnings, some of his early projects, some of the stuff that he and the band have going right now. Enjoy the conversation. I know I had a great time talking with Matt. Super cool dude. Not going to keep blabbing on. Enjoy. I think you're muted.
Yeah,
There we go.
I don't know why it. Anyway.
Zoom is a great piece of software.
Yeah, isn't it? I'm so used to it these days.
Not really. You're not very loud though.
Really?
Yeah. Maybe that's just me. I'll adjust my volume maybe. Are you frozen? No, you're not frozen. You're just really good at staying still. That's good.
For some reason my internet is just chose today to be super shitty. So
okay, well, makes sense.
Yeah.
Mine's never well actually I'm in my basement, and instead of using the Wi-Fi, I actually went out and got like a 14-foot Ethernet cable, and I put it down through like the cable hole that the TV people, when they install stuff, they drill the hole. So I like jammed it in there. It took me a while, but I finally got it through. So I'm actually running a direct line into my laptop so I can oh wow, I thought you were just posing there for a second. You really were frozen.
it's weird, eh?
Yeah, you're freezing up. Like I can't hear you at all, barely.
Here, I'm gonna try to reset the router, and I'm gonna call back, and we'll just restart.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
No worries,
cool.
bud.
The second.
All right, cool. So now we're recording again. So how you doing?
I'm good, man. It's nice to be on what seems like the path to, what's it called? The path to green.
Path to green.
Things are good.
That's what they say. I mean, I'm double vaxxed. You're double vaxxed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Double
My wife just got hers. She's in bed now.
I was gonna say, how's she doing?
A little nauseous, sore arm. She was smart. She's left-handed. She was smart to get it on the right arm this time so that she can, because she's an artist, she needs to draw and stuff. So she planned ahead. So yeah, but yeah, she's laid up in bed right now, just kind of taking it easy and popping some Tylenol, but she'll be back on her feet tomorrow. So
nice. Well, tell her I was thinking of her.
Yeah.
My wife was the same thing. I was the same as you. I had the Pfizer and then the Moderna, and it screwed me up for a day pretty hard, and then I was fine. I was smart enough to get it in my left arm. So like work was good. But that's also like the base. So it was kind of shit for the first one. I didn't get any soreness from the second one. The second one was way better in terms of the actual like soreness in the arm, but man, was it ever brutal.
No, for me, the Pfizer, I didn't notice the needle when she gave me the shot, and the rest of the day I was fine. I had no stiffness. And then Moderna, I felt everything. I felt like I felt the vaccine going, like it was weird. It was like this weird pocket of like juice going into my arm. I felt like I was roiding up, and then so arm stiffness, and then I was laid out for the rest. I didn't go to work the next day because I was just like, I just couldn't move. Right. So, but after the 24 hours was up, it was fine.
Yeah, it was the opposite for me. I felt everything the first one, in terms of the actual dosing.
Yeah.
And I felt everything on the second one in terms of the like side effects. But
okay. Weird.
It was quick.
It's
quick.
Different for everybody, but it's no different than any other flu shot. I mean, they're mRNA vaccines, so they're all based off of the same, base or whatever you want to call it. So I mean, they know what they're doing. So
yeah, and we just played our first like live outdoor show this last weekend that just went by, and that wouldn't be happening if we didn't have everybody getting their second dose. So I'm all for it.
Yeah, same here. You want to bring back live shows, you just got to follow the protocols, and I mean that's what
Suck
it's
it up.
for. Yeah, like I know, like Foo Fighters just played Madison Square Gardens, and if you didn't have a double vax, you didn't get in.
Fantastic.
And
Yeah,
they sold out.
There was some. It wasn't Anti-Flag, but there was someone recently. They sold tickets to a show, and anyone who didn't have a vaccination, the tickets would cost $1,000.
Yeah, I saw that on Fat Records Instagram. Yeah.
Fantastic.
It is what it is, right?
Yeah.
So, so you played the first show back. That was at the Cap.
That was it was the Tannery. So the 3 bars, they organized sea sales, and they put like the entire complex. It was awesome.
Cool. So
and they were able to sell it. That's it. Yeah. So the way it works is you buy, like, if there's 2-person tables, 3-person tables, 6-person tables, and so you buy the whole table, and then you bring your crew that you're bubbled with. It was awesome.
That was kind of what we did at the Cavo. Well, yeah, when we played the Cavo last, God, I don't even remember when it was. That was us and Which is Which, and I can't remember the other band, but it was a really good show. But they had like a lane to go to the bar. So when you go and get your drink, then you come back around, and they had sections on the floor for people to have their bubbles to be able to, like, I wouldn't say dance, but mosh or slam or whatever the kids call it these days, but it was a good time. Yeah, it was a punk show. It was great.
I'm really excited for my first big rock and roll show, like post COVID, something like an Every Time I Die show, where it's like little off the wall. Yeah, I'm looking forward to something like that.
Yeah, I don't know if we're gonna get back to the everybody jumping around and spitting on each other, but
no, I'm cool with that.
Yeah, I don't like getting spit on either, but
Yeah. And I think we were talking about this one time, but I've actually never played the Cabo.
I still find that hard to believe.
I know, right?
Like, you've been playing in bands for how many years now?
25.
Yeah.
25.
But you guys have played the upstairs, haven't you?
Well, yes. Yeah, we played upstairs. We played all around Moncton. Like, we played Paramount, Manhattan. We played Plan B. Recently we just played the Capitol Theater. Almost like we played Spin It back in the day. Like, we've kind of been all around, but it's just one of those elusive spots.
It's not that hard to get in. I'm sure you can find a way in there.
I'll have to call somebody.
You have to get in touch with somebody. I'm sure Zach knows somebody.
Yeah. People these days don't use phones, so.
No, it'll be a text message or Facebook message rather.
Yeah. Messenger.
Yeah. Messenger, whatever. So you I met you at Jack and I went to an SNFU show way back when. But you alluded to having met me before then, which I don't remember because I'm a douche. But that SNFU show was it was quite the night. I got way too much to drink and I destroyed your bathroom, I think. So.
Or did you?
Or did I? Don't remember.
Oh, that's our little secret.
Okay. I don't think it was too bad.
That was no.
I think Jack was cleaning up after me that day.
And we've all been there. But that was also, I mean, like, how often do you get to see one of your favorite bands of all time? So
yeah.
Plus you ran into one of your old friends from Miramachi too, didn't you?
Yeah, Aaron. Because we used to play. He was in the band that I would have been playing with back in the day with Jack when we were kids.
Oh, Aaron Young, that's who you ended up with. Yeah, I didn't realize it was Aaron Young. I thought it was a different one.
No, it was me and Jack, Aaron Young and Bruce Parks. And then Aaron and Bruce moved away to Fredericton, joined a couple punk bands, and then totally lost touch with them until that night. Just randomly just bumped into each other, like literally at the bar, turn around and it's like, "Hey, fucker." It's like, holy shit. So it was kind of cool.
Yeah, and that show was the first time I ever saw Strike Anywhere, Washington band. And they were amazing. And we had actually played with SNFU 3 times before going to see that show. That was the first time they had ever played Fredericton since I started going to shows that we weren't playing with them. And it was painful to watch. That was kind of like where you knew something was really up with Chai.
Yeah, he was a little weird because he was wandering around the crowd before the show, and I just, again, wandering the crowd, drunk out of my mind, and then bump into him, and that motherfucker can pinch like you wouldn't believe. Like, he pinched my arm so bad I had a blue mark on my arm for probably a month. Like, and it took less than a second. He just like, bam. I was like, what the fuck was that? And then he's like, buy me a beer. So I was like, okay.
What a drink.
You earned it. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, that was a great show. Well, it was a good time. I wouldn't say it was a great show, but it was a great time.
Yeah. Oh, that was an awesome time.
Yeah.
So in terms of like the punk bands that went through Miramachi, was there a lot of shows, like bigger shows, or just mostly all ages, eh?
It was all ages, and it was all DIY. It was like somebody's field, or somebody had like I remember a buddy of mine, Gene, had a birthday, and his parents used to own a hotel. So he used the lobby of the hotel, and we played. I think we were the only band, and we had like a few covers and a few originals. I'd say probably about a half-hour set. So we played the half-hour set like 3 times.
Classic.
You know?
Oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There wasn't a big scene here, and we played whenever we could, but it was mostly just practice, hanging out with your buddies, writing songs, skateboarding, drinking when we shouldn't have been, smoking what we shouldn't have been smoking, just stuff like that.
Yeah. Normal teenage, all age scene stuff. Yeah. We played a church downtown once. I think it was like it was either right on or just off King George, but I don't remember what it was called.
Oh yeah, it was a youth center. It was like a church/youth center. Yeah, right near the satellites by where the old courthouse was.
Did you end up going up to Bathurst for a lot of shows?
No, I remember I was gonna go with Aaron and Bruce to go see Gob, and I think my girlfriend at the time didn't want me to go, or something came up, so I didn't end up going. And then of course the next day, Aaron and Bruce come back and they're talking about, how they were hanging out backstage with Theo and passing joints around and having a great old time. And they're telling me this story in front of my girlfriend at the time, and she was just shaking her head like, yeah. She wasn't part of that scene. She didn't like that kind of stuff. So
more justification to not go next time.
Yeah, pretty much. That's how she saw it. I was like, damn, I missed a good time. So anyway, it is what it is. You live and learn.
But also like not drastically different from most 30-year-olds we know.
Yeah, right. So you have your older brother John, also a musician. So you guys kind of came up learning how to play, or he would learn how to play. And so how did you get into playing instruments? Because you play like a bunch of different things.
My dad played growing up. My dad already knew how to play guitar and was already teaching some of my friends how to play guitar by the time like I was kind of ready to start playing. But John, at that point, like John had taken piano lessons, had already played bass in Room 101, and So he was at, like, when I started learning, he was at the point where he would just give me these little nuggets of, here's a Pennywise riff, here's a No Effects riff, here's a No Use for a Name riff. And he could learn by ear at that point. So it was like I could actually like ask him, and he'd be like, "You can't play that." So here's this. Like he'd be like, "Here's Broham. Like, you can do that. Go ahead." So that's kind of how I learned. I didn't really get lessons from my dad. He taught me the chords, and that was about it. Because he was like, I don't want to teach you too much because we're a creative family, and he didn't want me to be just a normal guitarist.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't want me so he's like, I'll teach you a little bit, John. I'll teach you some like punk techniques because it seems like that's what you want to do right now. And, if you want any tips, come find me. And I wasn't the type to do that. So I rarely did, but so I would come home and John and I would jump downstairs. We had a drum kit and a guitar. And so I would usually just jump on the drum kit and we would just play whatever songs he knew on guitar. And so that kind of got us to a point where we knew a lot of the same songs. And then I remember for like another, go over and we're going to jam with this guy. And so, if it was a bass player, then I would jump on drums. If it was a drummer, then, we'd either both play guitar, or he'd play bass and I'd play guitar or whatever. And so we just kind of do it that way until he started kind of like getting comfortable in some bands. And then Andrew Albert, who lived right around the corner from me, was like, this band is looking for a guitarist. So why don't you come over and we'll get you in this band. So that's how I got into Missing.
Okay. So first band was The Missing, and you played guitar in that.
Yeah. Well, I was in The Missing for like 10 years. Technically probably for 20, but we played consistently from 96 through 2009. Okay. And then we still did offshoot shows. So it's not so linear where I would be at one band for us in another. So while I was playing guitar in The Missing, I started playing drums in El Diablo at that time, became Crosstown Rivals. And I mostly just stuck to guitar and drums for a really long time. Anytime that we would do here in Fredericton, we have the Christmas cover set where we like raise money for the food banks by doing massive cover sets. And so it's like, one year we did Propaganda, another we did Thrice, another we did Raised Fist, and wherever possible, Comeback Kid, wherever possible, I played drums for those because it was a chance to kind of like do double kick, real hardcore stuff.
Yeah.
And so those two bands were kind of like most of what I did right up until 2010. That's when I started getting into some of the like more indie folks singer-songwriter stuff. And so I started out playing drums for Westerberg Suicides back with my brother.
Yeah, so that was with John,
Mike Mason, Rob, Glenn came into the fold later. So,
okay, so with that band, you would jump back and forth between guitar and drums?
Well, Rob, I was initially the drummer. Mm-hmm. And when Rob had his first kid, he was like, I'm going to take a break. I don't know how long I'm going to be. So just, like, don't wait up kind of thing.
Okay.
So because I had written all the drum parts, and it was easier to kind of fill in the drummer than it was to fill in the guitar at that point, because we needed someone who could sing harmony too. I just called Zach up and I was like, do you want to play drums in another band? And he's like, always. So he jumped on the kit and I jumped on guitar. And, a week later, I think we were already playing shows.
Yeah. I mean, Zach's a great drummer. He can pretty much turn it on. drop of a hat.
And the other cool thing is like, because we played the Capitol once a month or more, it meant that Zach kind of, he was experiencing like our set all the time because he worked there.
Yeah.
So, like he knew the songs in and out. Like Zach was at the point, because he had seen us so much, that he'd like hold his breath for parts that maybe like I didn't nail that role every time. He'd be like,
okay.
Yeah, who got it this time?
So you could always look in the crowd and he'd kind of give you either the nod or the, what were you thinking?
Yeah. Or the,
Ooh,
yeah.
maybe next time, bud.
So that transition was super, super easy.
Yeah. So you've played in a few bands with Zach, or you've played with Zach for a number of years. How did Kill Chicago come about?
Kill Chicago, Greg was doing kind of jazzy stuff. He was going to McGill in Montreal. And this was kind of like his outlet, I guess, from school. He had all these songs. He had never really fronted a band. He was doing the choir thing. He was doing the classical degree. And so he just kind of wanted to get out and continue playing. Because, I mean, coming from Fredericton, where we were playing every week at the point where he left, or more, it was a huge gap for him to get out there and not be able to just jump on any stage he wanted and play every week. So he started writing songs. He got some of his music buddies to come out and start playing, and it was like upright bass, acoustic guitar. And when he'd come home at Christmas, he'd be like, hey Matt, do you want to come on stage and play a couple songs with me? And I'd be like, yeah, sure. And he's like, I just need a bass player. It's like, I don't play it, but I'll learn. Okay. And so he'd teach me one song, and I'd be like, yeah, that one's easy. And he'd be like, oh, do you want to do more? And the first time he was home, that he asked me to go up with him, which I think was his second time doing kind of the solo show thing. I ended up playing like 6 or 8 songs with him. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I don't have a classical degree. I don't play like the same way that a lot of the people back there played. So it kind of gave it a little bit more of a vibe. And so I think over time, he started kind of thinking like, I want to get home. I want to play with all my like childhood friends. I just want to be home. And once he got back and we started kind of shedding these songs, and they started sounding more like the Fredericton scene rather than the McGill scene. He was like, oh, this is what it was always supposed to be. And so that's kind of how Kill Chicago was born. It was this thing that he tried to create out of an absence for like home. And then he moved home, and home like influenced the sound that it had. Right. And then we had done a Queens of the Stone Age show for one of the Christmas cover sets, and Dylan Anthony, who's currently the keys player, he came on as to play second guitar while Greg played keys for it and sang. And so that's how he got introduced to Greg. And Greg was like, I think that guy'd be just the perfect fit. You think he'd want to play with us? And we're like, I think he could be convinced. So that's it kind of kept shifting and shifting and shifting, but it wasn't until Dylan got in the band, kind of like put his stamp on it. It really that's the point I think that it became Kill Chicago.
Yeah. It's such a unique sound. Like just the 4 of you guys together just creates this like musical explosion of like so many different influences. It's heavy when it needs to be. It's melodic, it's got these beautiful peaks and valleys, like just the whole structure. Like every song has such a cool structure to it. And like when you think you're going to go one way, it totally takes a left turn, and then it just crescendos. Like you're one of my favorite bands. Like then seeing you guys live is just like another experience altogether. And I know you guys played Harvest a couple years back, and I wasn't able to go to that show, but the word on the street was it was fire. Like it exploded. Like the tent just kind of blew up.
Yeah, that was a weird time because we had just, that was our record release show too. Like the records just came in that week, and we were playing with Matt Mays, and we were kind of low on the bill, and we are like I hope people just show up early enough to actually see us. That's all we cared about. And it turned out that that show was actually, yeah, that was an incredible show for us. So that was really kind of the launching pad for Kill Chicago. That was where we started finally getting some traction.
Yeah, that was
And
like a homecoming.
yeah, exactly. I also remember Win from Miramachi. He had seen us. He had seen like a video of us. Greg had gone down and done some solo stuff, but he was up for that show, and he was like, "You guys have to come to Miramachi. This is it." So
yeah.
It opened up a lot of doors for us.
Yeah. And then so you guys played Miramachi a couple times, and we got to open for you guys. I remember because I had gotten your vinyl, and I remember listening to it before the show because, you know, pre-game warm up, listening, you know, and then I remember standing in the back of the room and you guys were playing. I was like, I don't know how you guys are doing it, but you're sounding better than the vinyl. Like it was, the room sounded great. You guys were on point. It was just, the sound was amazing.
I mean, we work on a lot of different aspects of the band. Specifically, we put a lot of effort into our videos. Conscious decisions about not playing songs the same way they are, slightly different. It's a variation of the record. So yeah, I mean, like we put a lot of effort into making sure that we're not stepping on each other's toes sonically, trying to get really, really big, but at the same time being able to hear a pin drop. And we work really, really hard on all of our arrangements to make sure that we're giving tons of variety so that, you know, we can play 3 shows in a row and give everyone kind of a different experience. But really work on those, you know, like those really, really big moments, and then like getting really, really small. So the listener goes on a journey with you.
Yeah. And I found like there's a difference between the first record and the second record. Like I remember listening to the first record and getting used to that sound and loving that album from cover to cover. And then when the new album came out, I listened to it and I was like, wait, what is this? This is totally not what I was like. This isn't Kill Chicago. But then after I listened to it for the second and third time, I was like, holy shit, this record is like even better than the first record. And it's totally Kill Chicago. Like I find like my favorite records are always the ones that it takes me a couple listens to before I really get into it. And then you start noticing all these little things and you're just like, I see what they were going for. I get it.
Yeah, there's more what I'd call subtext to the second record. There's these little nuances, there's little layers. You kind of get more out of repeated listens. And I think that just comes from, you know, spending more time on it. Greg showed up with most of the first record written. So the first record really is representative of Greg as an artist, and sonically it sounds like the 4 of us playing it. The second record, I think we all contributed a little more to. Greg is 100% the brains behind the band and writes all of the lyrics and the writing. He's just so strong as a front man and as a lyricist. Like when I find out what the songs are about, either internally or through conversations, I'm always like, oh my God, like how did I miss it? But of course I did. But I think I totally get that idea that it's harder to grasp onto what the second record is, but I think that there's more little nuggets to like dig in. So I think that it's a longer lasting record because of that.
Yeah. No, they're both fantastic. I still have to pick that second one up on vinyl. Don't have that on vinyl yet.
Yeah, the record sounds, the record actually is the mastering for the digital versus record, it's a huge difference. I feel like the record is a completely different experience. So that'll be interesting for you to try that on and see how you like the vinyl versus the record.
Yeah, no, looking forward to it. So something that I just saw recently was you have a beer with Kill Chicago now in Fredericton.
We do, yeah. Zach, the owner of the Capitol, he's done beers with some prominent Fredericton musicians. I know She Said Feck Records, Kate Butler's label, and the Hypos had their own beer, but we finally have our own. It's Take the City Cider, which is a blueberry sour. Sorry, Take the City Sour, which is a blueberry sour.
Okay.
Yeah, the Captain Brewing beer since I think right around just before the pandemic hit, they were just getting set up. So they started actually putting them in the LCs, but all the band related ones, you got to go to the Cap to get it.
Awesome. Cool. Well, next time I go to the Cap, I'll have to try a glass. So is it something that's going to be permanently there? Like, or are they going to be swapping them out?
They're not permanent fixtures. It's like it's a get it while you can type of thing. Usually they'll open for a month or so. They'll probably have them through to New Brunswick Day, and then they'll find another willing participant.
So chances are
another cool thing. You know what? I'll grab you a couple. And I'll bring a couple up for you and Jack and Chris and the boys.
Okay, cool. That sounds good.
Another cool thing that happened for Kill Chicago recently, the Tipsy Muse, when COVID hit, they had these Walk of Fame stars, lyrics from them, and it's meant to keep people socially distant in the line trying to get their coffee. But the stars are all like Beatles and lyrics, and generally they're like kind of spins on coffee, but they're just kind of like meant to like bridge because of the venue and the coffee shop. So those finally got worn out after a year because the place has been bumping, and they decided to replace them with local heroes. So we finally got our star on the floor, and it's cool because they have like a QR code on it, and so like if you walk up and you scan the Hypos, then it'll bring up their music on your phone, and so you can officially check out Kill Chicago music from the floor on the Tipsy Muse.
From the floor on the Tipsy Muse.
We're
That's
spoiled.
really cool. So so obviously those will get worn out eventually. So I'm guessing they'll probably replace them or upkeep them with new bands as they come around. And
there's so many bands in Fredericton. I wouldn't be surprised if they decide to replace them more frequently than just when they get worn out, because everybody deserves a shot.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really cool. That's a really cool initiative. Yeah, that's one thing I noticed about Fredericton is the music scene and the art scene are very immersed with one another. Like they're very supportive. Yeah,
it's one of those things, and like we really started. I think New Brunswick as a whole, we need to celebrate ourselves harder than we do. There's incredible music coming out of St. John, Moncton, Miramachi, loads and loads of stuff up north that it's only starting to make its way down to us now, like especially on the francophone side. But when we look at like the ECMAs and you look at representation from New Brunswick this year, it's abysmal. And I don't know if it's like we're like, screw it, like we can't compete with Halifax because they all get on CBC and we don't. So it's like, what's the point? Or if they're in their own world and they just decided that that's just the way it's going to be. I don't know, but I guarantee you, like anyone that comes here, they're always amazed at how much higher we punch above our weight musically, creatively, generally. But yeah, I feel like there's always been something special here.
Yeah, 100%. All my favorite bands now are New Brunswick bands, and that's like I'm talking globally. Like if you look at my Spotify playlist, like it's all bands from around here. So another thing that we have in common is we're both Hoovians.
Hoovians
Yeah.
and drag mothers.
Yes, that's 100%. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Have you been watching the All Stars season 6 for Direct
I
RuPaul?
have. And it's like I'm almost mad at it because it's just like it's so stacked that you don't want to see anyone go home.
Hmm.
Like I think ultimately like everyone that's gone thus far, I'm not gonna drop any spoilers, don't you worry. Uh, but I mean, it's been pretty on point. But like, I'm like baffled to see who's gonna take this because I like everyone's already at such an elite level. Like, how do you take that up a notch?
Yeah. I find so far this season, um, the first two queens that have gone home were justified in going home. Like they got the bottom right, but they
Yep.
didn't get the winners right.
Hmm. I would agree with you on week one.
No, well, okay. So week two's winner, I can see where that queen won, but I still think that there was another queen that was overlooked and it was just marked as safe and wasn't even in the top and should have been.
Yeah. Oh, that I agree with.
Okay.
That I agree. So let's go back to the who.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. So, so when as far as Doctor Who goes, do you go way back to like original run, like from the 50s and 60s, or is it more of like the 2005 reboot?
So I remember watching Doctor Who in my grandparents' sun porch because they lived in St. Stephen, so they got the American feed, which
Mhm.
was like such a cool thing. Like I always thought of it as like I'm going kind of like out into the country, and then I get there and I'd be like, American TV, this rules. So I wasn't a big Doctor Who fan growing up.
Mhm.
Um, but when I went to my grandparents, it was like this thing, and it was like hokey. Even at that age, I could tell that it was like super budget, and
Yeah.
but it was just kind of like something that just touched me because like it had a little slice of my heart.
Yeah.
And then when I met my wife, she was a massive Doctor Who fan.
Same.
So because it had, I mean, we're looking at 50 years at this point plus.
Hmm.
Um, she was like, I don't even know where to start. Like, do we start at Matt Smith, or like she's a massive Tennant fan. Um, but we just decided like we can't go all the way back to like the Baker days, so we're
No.
just gonna start at the reboot.
Yeah. Okay. So Chris
So
Eccleston.
we started at Eccleston
Yeah.
and we worked our way up through. And I go to my in-laws every Christmas. We watch it like that.
The Christmas
Most people
specials.
have most people have thoughts of like Christmas, like the dinner with their families or
Mhm.
whatever. But like in that household, it really is like the Christmas special
Yeah.
is that
That's
Christmas.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. We were that way up until um the uh the last Christmas special. I remember that we like as a family, my wife and I sat down and watched was the Matt Smith farewell.
Uh,
When then Peter Capaldi came in.
mhm.
That was a tough one. Matt Smith was a
Yeah.
great doctor.
So long, too. Yeah, Matt Smith's still my favorite.
He's your favorite?
He is. He's my favorite.
Yeah, no. For us it's David Tennant.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and same with my wife. Yeah,
Yeah.
and his run was like legendary. But um, I just I think I just connect with Matt Smith a little bit more. Like
Is it
he's
because his
kooky.
name is Matt?
I think it's because he's kooky in the same way that I am. Like I'm kind of a weird guy. I'm not sure if you noticed.
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, for my wife and I, we both on our 10th anniversary, we got sonic screwdriver tattoos. Can't even see it.
Oh,
The David Tennant sonic
sick.
screwdriver
Yeah.
for our 10th anniversary. So we're coming up on our 20th, so we got to figure something else out.
I
So we got
didn't realize
matching. Sorry.
I didn't realize number 10 was Sonic. I always thought it was platinum.
No, it's a sonic screwdriver. I
No, I know.
get you. I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Took me a second, I'm a drummer. Um, so Tennant and then Smith and then Capaldi and then now it's Jodie Whittaker. What do you think of
Yeah.
her?
Oh, I love her.
Yeah.
Like I don't understand all the backlash. Like I mean I expected it, but she's fantastic. Like
Yeah.
a doctor is a doctor is a doctor. And
Yeah.
like the more they can mix it up, it just opens itself up to better storylines.
Agreed. I haven't watched her second series. I've watched up to her first series, but I didn't watch her second series as the Doctor yet. So I'm a season behind basically.
Lucky you.
Lucky me. Why?
Because like for me, the hardest, I started getting like a little disconnected because they've been taking those breaks.
Yeah.
So if you can stockpile, Diane is just, she's like, new episode, we're watching it now.
Yeah.
But when you can stockpile them and go through them, I'm gonna like leave it and binge it kind of
Yeah,
guy.
that's what we're kind of doing. We're leaving it
Yeah,
and binging it. Yeah.
that's why I'm jealous.
Okay. I gotcha. So as far as companions go, I know my favorite companions are probably the Pawns,
Rory
Rory and Amy.
and Amy, yeah.
Yeah. Who's
Yeah, I
who's
mean,
your favorite?
I think I agree.
Yeah.
Because that dynamic just added a whole extra storyline.
Yeah.
Like you had the breakaways. Now I love the current.
Well,
Well, I
the
guess
group. I guess the group it would be.
I know. I'm like trying not to, but yeah, like the
Okay.
full group, because it just means that they can carry a whole episode by themselves.
Right.
And like I said, like at 50 years, you kind of need you need to introduce these story arcs that are gonna pull you away from just like doctor driven.
Yeah, agreed. That's why I found like Amy and Rory worked so well.
Or give them.
Sorry.
Yeah. So I feel like the current group is just kind of a return to that.
Okay.
Everything I loved about Rory and Amy,
Mhm.
you kind of get that with the new group.
Okay, so we're kind of on the same page with that. Worst companion.
I want to say, oh my god, I can't even remember her name. She's from she's the bed who was super schmarmy.
Super schmarmy.
Yeah. She was in that the BBC skit where she's always like
Oh, I know who you mean. Donna.
yeah, Donna. Thank you.
You didn't like Donna?
Well, I love Donna, but for all the wrong reasons.
Okay.
Like she was so like, if I was gonna kick anyone off the TARDIS, it'd be Donna, because she couldn't follow rules. She was always like ripping on everything the Doctor did. So she's the worst companion.
No.
But at the same time, she was so entertaining.
No way, man. The worst companion by far, hands down, was Clara.
Because she was boring?
She was just so needy. And, well, she was needy, but it was also, for some reason, Peter Capaldi's Doctor was just like, everything was about her. Like it was always Clara. Like it was like, didn't matter what was going on. Saving the Universe was a side story. It was about Clara. And I couldn't handle that.
Yeah, I think that was a byproduct of the era it was made in, where there was a lot of concern about having strong female protagonists. Unfortunately, they didn't make her strong. They just tried to make her compelling, but it was poor.
Yeah. Okay.
She was my least favorite, but she wasn't the worst because she was astute.
Okay. We have different definition as to best versus worst.
Okay.
But I see where I respect what you're saying. I can see where you're coming from. So what do you guys have coming down the pipe? Like what's new? Like as far as music,
Um,
like you have a number 3 because you guys did that session in the recording studio where you wrote a song. That was a cool
yeah,
little thing.
we've gone in and we've done the live session. There's talks about maybe doing a second one.
Hmm.
We had some material backed up before we did the uh, new record, so we've kind of been sitting on some stuff. I think we're just at the point where we're trying to figure out what the next move is. We know we're hitting the studio. We don't know what it's going to look like coming out the other side. Might be a couple of EPs that we string together. We might do one of those song of the month things and then put a record out on the other side, or we might just surprise everybody and drop a record like sooner rather than later.
Oh, really?
I I genuinely don't know, but
Okay.
I do know that we have roughly the amount of work to put a record in.
Okay, like
So
recorded and mixed or like just written?
no, we've got some we've got about half of a record demoed, and the rest of it is just kind of like stuff we've done for a live session here or there. And so it's just about how we don't know how to package it yet, but I think that we have to work through a couple of the newest songs to figure that out.
Okay, cool. Right on.
And through the pandemic, to keep myself sane, I started learning how to like program drums and record stuff. So I kind of like as a way to keep myself sane, I wanted to record like a love letter to Fat Records, to like 1996, if you will.
Right.
And so I just like anytime that I needed a mental break from stuff, I'd come in and I just record a riff here or there,
Hmm.
and up to about 16 songs. So I've been kind of chatting with Colin Steves and Kyle Clark, and I think we're gonna put a punk band together
Nice.
and put out a record here like sometime over the next year as well.
Well, if it's a punk band, it'll definitely play at the Cavo.
That's the plan.
Right on. Well, if you need an opening band or someone to put on the bill, I know a couple of
I
guys.
I kind of feel like it'd be the opposite. I don't mind riding those coattails, Trey.
Right on. All right, bud. We'll cut this here, and I can't wait to get to share another stage with you again, brother.
Oh man, likewise. It's the only thing I'm thinking about these days. So, um, I'll talk to Zach and see if we can't get you guys up to Fredericton. We'll put a show together.
Anytime, buddy.
Love it. All
Right
right,
on, man. Cheers.
peace out.
Peace. Well, that was my conversation with Matt. I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said before, I had a great time talking with Matt. Super cool guy. Can't wait to catch up with him in person. Do yourself a favor. All the links in the video. Go check out Kill Chicago, Spotify, all those other places. But the best way to listen to them is on vinyl. So if you can get your hands on a vinyl, do that. Hope to catch you guys out at a show. Support local music and stay safe. Love you all.